Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive, bringing you guys a brand new Pokemon Sword and Shield video today. And let me tell you guys, this one is a good one. There was a Gameinformer interview done with Junichi Masuda and Shigeru Ohmori, and those are the two individuals that are producing the Pokemon games for Game Freak. And there's a handful of questions that got thrown their way, and I'm gonna give you guys the rundown and my thoughts on some of their answers. Now, this video is about 10 minutes long, and I'll put it in the description below if you guys want to watch the full interview yourself. But I've kind of parsed out some of the stuff that I thought was more relevant or more entertaining and took out a little bit of the fluff, and we can kind of focus on the things that I thought were relevant to Pokemon Sword and Shield. So let's kind of take a deeper dive here and take a look at this here. Be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe, you guys are new. We are just almost at 500,000 subscribers, guys. We're about 30,000 away, which I know is a lot, but every one of you guys can make a difference to help us get to that goal. So thank you guys for supporting our Sword and Shield content. And if you didn't see the video yesterday, 18 gyms, baby. If that doesn't have you hyped for this game, I don't know what will. I really don't, because I'm super duper excited. So I will say, I think Ben did a great job with this interview. You should definitely check out the full one, but let's break it down here. The first question that was kind of thrown their way is, will there be digitized cries in the game? So will they kind of be like digital cries, or will they sound more like animals? And they said they will cry in the game as if they're living creatures, I can say. Which is an interesting answer. It leaves a little bit to kind of be desired in terms of that, and you'll see throughout this interview, there are some kind of dodging of questions, but we'll jump into the next one here. Do you ever think that, or would you ever consider making games with multiple difficulties, similar to kind of what Black and White 2 did, where there was a normal mode and a challenge mode and an easy mode? And their answer to that was actually, I think players can choose the right playstyle in terms of difficulty for themselves, and that they didn't plan to make any more or any difficulty adjustments to the game. So I found that pretty interesting. A lot of people have always been asking for, can we get difficulty settings in Pokemon games? Can we get them? And they pretty much said no, where it's not gonna happen. It is not on our radar. It is not something we're planning to do. It is up to the player to choose the right playstyle for difficulty. And I think that actually shows a lot of self-awareness from Masuda and Ohmori regarding kind of their knowledge and I guess awareness is the right word, to kind of describe the community and the fact that people do Nuzlocks and people do type-only playthroughs and people do challenge runs and whatever it might be, and they're kind of saying, hey, that responsibility is on you. We're trying to make a game that's really accessible for everybody. So for those who are interested in kind of difficulty settings, I would not expect that anytime soon. I think this interview kind of shoots that down pretty quickly. I've always been a fan of the idea of introducing difficulty if it's executed better than kind of what Black and White 2 did, but I also understand that kind of what they're saying here, you can kind of impose those challenges upon yourself. I generally do like bug playthroughs, or I'll do, you know, a Nuzlocke playthrough where, you know, if your Pokemon faints then you don't use them anymore, and that'll add increasing difficulty to the game kind of on itself. So pretty interesting stuff there. So here's one of the biggest pieces, and it's about Dynamax. The interviewer said, can you give us a little bit of information about Dynamaxing? Is it considered a projection, or is the Pokemon inside the projection? Is it actually the Pokemon that gets bigger? And it actually turns out that Dynamaxing, and I didn't know this, Dynamaxing is a projection. It's not actually the physical Pokemon itself getting bigger. Now granted, it's a video game, doesn't really matter, I guess, but it's not the actual Pokemon getting bigger, it's simply a projection of that Pokemon getting larger from kind of a visual perspective. And then there was a few more questions regarding that, like, so where is the Pokemon? Is it really tiny sitting on the floor by the big one? Is it inside the big one? And there was a little bit of ambiguity there and not really any clarity on that. They kind of just laughed it off when the interviewer was kind of like, hey, is it floating in the inside of the big Pokemon? They kind of didn't really specify. But it is very interesting to note that it is confirmed that it is not the actual Pokemon, but rather a projection of that Pokemon, similar to how like a projector screen would take a small image and make it bigger on a wall, right? So that's what Dynamaxing is. It is not the actual Pokemon getting bigger, which I thought was pretty interesting. I feel like we're headed into the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! With this, with Dynamaxing. They then asked, can you say if there's more than 72 new Pokemon? And they laughed and said, I can't say. We're not allowed. There's a lot we can't answer. They're not allowed to answer anything with numbers in this interview. So is there more than 72? I would love to get someone who's a psychologist to watch that part, you know, kind of someone who specializes in interpreting body language, to watch that part and see if they can parse out their body language to determine if they're laughing because it's more than 72 or if they're laughing because it's like 35 and we're about to get bamboozled. But either way, my gut says it's actually going to be more than 72. That would be my guess. Time will tell, but they couldn't give us a definitive answer on how many Pokemon were going to be in the game. They said on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult is the development of, well, they said we can't say anything more with numbers, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult is the development of Pokemon Sword and Shield? And they answered with 9, which means that they have found the development of this game to be very, very challenging. And again, there's been a lot of outrage in terms of people being upset about the national decks and all that other stuff. I think a lot of people are jumping back on the bandwagon when they heard there's 18 gyms, which is pretty nuts. But ultimately, they've said it's a 9 on the difficulty scale, which is pretty crazy to say, okay, hey, we're pretty much done with this project now. They're at the closing phases of finishing this game, if it's not already finished from their hands. And they're like, looking back, this was a very challenging game for us to create, which generally means that the results are probably going to be pretty awesome. The next question was regarding the kind of the random battles. They said, are the random battles going to occur outside of the wild area? And they said it's a mixture of both. It's going to be as the same as in the wild area. So the wild area is this area that has, you know, biodiversity where the weather is going to change and things are going to change in the wild area. Pokemon are going to be visible in the outside, but it's also going to be visible. You could battle through the grass and random encounters. But that's going to be across the entire game, where you're going to be able to see wild Pokemon roaming, but also encounter them in the grass. And this is like a best of both worlds situation. Absolutely incredible. People loved what they did with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. There was a split group of people who wanted the wild encounters, and you kind of mix them together to make this game. I really feel like they listened to the community a lot. Aside from the Pokedex controversy, I really feel like they've hit the nail on the head with a lot of different things. And I'm super excited to see kind of what's going to be developed out further here. I think that this game is going to be really magical when it comes to that, because I really felt like it was so captivating in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, the fact that you can encounter these wild Pokemon in the overworld, and being able to have a mixture of both just sounds really cool in my opinion. The next question was, in one word, what would you describe, wait, hold on, what was this one? This was, oh yeah, sorry, I missed one. Will you show the starters' final evolutions before the game is out? And they said it's probably better if you don't see it, which tells me there's a decent chance. I don't want to read too much into this, but they said, are the starters coming out before the game comes out? And they laughed and said it's probably better if you don't see it. So maybe we won't actually see starter evolutions before the game is released. I think there's a possibility. They probably aren't allowed to say whether or not they're gonna get teased or shown in a trailer, but they definitely said that it's better that you don't see it. So from their opinion, they think it's better that you don't see it. So maybe they didn't feel like the Sun and Moon reveal cycle was good because too much was spoiled about the game going into it. Because they see all the tweets, man, believe it or not. Anyway, they asked to describe the game in one word, and they actually, to describe Sword and Shield's story, and the word they used was aspiration. And I think that that word really was a good choice. It kind of captures what you think of when you think of the character Leon, who's trying to be the very best at battling. And, you know, you and Hop are both aspiring to take on this gym challenge and explore Galar and become the best battler in this new Coliseum-based battle system with major and minor leagues, and there's just this huge aspiration to become the best, and it really, really feels like Sword and Shield is trying to capture that, be the best battler that there ever has been. And I think there's going to be a massive focus on competitive in this game, and I think the gyms show that. I think the fact that we kind of believe that natures can be changed now, there's a lot of really good things that kind of point to that. This is a really interesting question next. They said, have you ever considered changing the starters from fire, water, grass to a different trio? And they said, we've thought about it, but it makes the most sense with grass, fire, and water. And I think that that's simply there for introductory for new players, right? Fire, grass, water is a very simple triangle for new players to understand and to get the basics of the game. We tend to forget that because we're so adept at the game. You know, I've been playing it for 20-something years. So for me, the type chart is pretty much, you know, I know it pretty well. For some, it's new, so when you think of a very simple type chart, you think of fire, water, grass. It's very easy to know, okay, fire beats grass, water beats fire, and so on and so forth, right? So I think that this kind of hints that they'll probably stick to that formula, at least for the very foreseeable future. I don't anticipate them ever changing it, if I'm being honest, but they can always change the secondary types of these various Pokemon. The next question I thought was very interesting, and they said, do you ever want to make another game with Nintendo IP, so intellectual property? And they said, not really today. And there's been a lot of talk and rumors going around that the Game Freak Studio, which is developing the game, then you have Nintendo, and then you have Pokemon Company International. So there's like three kind of pieces playing in part here. There's a lot of rumors and discussion that maybe they don't always see eye to eye, which I think is probably pretty normal, but it seems as though Game Freak as a game studio might not be super stoked about some of the things that Nintendo kind of makes them do or requests of them or whatever it may be. I feel like they may be rushed on deadlines. I don't know what the situation is, obviously, and we can only read so much into it with one question, but I did think it was interesting that they basically said, hey, we don't want to do another kind of game with Nintendo that's not Pokemon. which tells me that, again, with their Little Town Hero game coming out, it's not surprising that the game studio wants to focus elsewhere. And then the last question we have is, I thought this was pretty interesting. Will we ever be able to create a new Pokemon within a game? So, like, can you actually create your own Pokemon inside of a Pokemon game? And they said no. They kind of thought about it. They're like, no, this is not going to be anything that we're going to really have going on. So, never going to be able to create your Pokemon, which I thought was a really cool question because I had never even thought of that. But a lot of good information in this interview, a lot of really cool stuff regarding Pokemon Sword and Shield. I found it pretty fascinating, and it was just really cool to hear the directors of the game and kind of the creators of the game give some insight and some of their thoughts in terms of the game. Nothing really massive in terms of like leaks or anything, but the Dynamax thing was pretty cool, and there's definitely some pretty good information here. So big shout outs there. I'll put the link and everything in the description if you want to check out the Gameinformer interview. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I wanted to kind of add my commentary and thoughts, and I'll catch you guys in the next one for Sword and Shield, just a few days away from Glimwood Tangle, which I'm so excited about. Guys, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.